Hello, everybody. I am Victoria Grinman, and welcome to That Moment. Today, I have Jo Coburn with me, and we are going to talk about her amazing story and what she does in the world, and also talk about healthcare. But before we begin, I want to just share a little bit about what That Moment is about. It is a show that showcases really amazing people in the world who contribute greatly and showcasing their story and growth through any struggles that they've experienced to where they are today. So I'm really excited to talk to Jo. She is a functional medicine health coach, and I'm going to let her share with us a little bit of what she does. Jo, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm so excited for you to be here.
Me too. It's great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was just sharing with you before we started just how important this topic is, and a couple of people even reached out to me this morning saying, I really like that topic. I look forward to hearing about it. So can you tell us a little bit about you? Who are you in this world?
Sure. So I'm a functional medicine health coach. I don't practice as a doctor. I started way too late in life for that to go back to medical school. But I always knew that the body has amazing ability to heal. And throughout the struggles that I had, it really became apparent that we weren't getting to the root of what's going on with most Americans and most people around the world, because this isn't just an American problem. This is actually a global problem. And, what most of the medicine that we receive is just a Band-Aid for a symptom. It's not really getting to the root of what's going on. And this year, more than any other year, we're really kind of seeing the after effects of just putting Band-Aids on problems and not really getting down to the root.
Yeah. Let's just go back. You just said so much gold. This is gold, right? And I know what you're talking about. I'm with you. Let's go back a little bit. So people are listening saying, what do you mean? Like, I go to the doctor and, they give me medicine, or I have a backache, so I'll take a leave, or, not that I have anything against the leave. I have a bottle in my cabinet, but
just in case.
Are you saying that there's something different than that approach, or what exactly are you talking about?
Yeah, totally. So functional medicine looks at all the symptoms. We don't label anything. We're not interested in what disease label you have or any of that. We work outside of that, and we look at the whole body as connected. So, what's going on with your back isn't just a back problem. It's a whole body problem. So why is it that for you, Victoria, simple, one person, right? Not everybody in the world with back problems, but you, why is it in your body manifesting in your back, and what's the root cause of that? I mean, maybe it was an injury, like it was an acute problem and you injured your back, but why is it your lower back, not your upper back? Why, when I start talking to people about, there's a headache, right? Why do you have a headache? It could be different for every person, right? You could have a headache because you fell down and hit your head. Or you could have a headache because you're dehydrated and you didn't drink enough water. You could have a headache because you have a sinus infection. All those problems have different roots. So if you have a headache because you have a sinus infection, you could take a pain reliever, but what we really need to do is clear up that congestion and that infection. So the root cause is different, and the treatment and the plan is different.
So are you saying that the symptoms that people experience, like a backache or a headache, are symptoms of a deeper core issue that needs to be treated? Otherwise, we're, like you said, just putting a Band-Aid
or putting a Band-Aid on it
and numbing it for a while. Wow. Yeah. I love that.
Right. Well, I mean, if you get a cut and it's infected and you just put a Band-Aid over it and you ignore it, the infection's going to spread.
Yeah.
It's not going to get to the root of what's going on. So if there's something, I work with a model that we were taught in functional medicine school where maximize, minimize, prioritize.
Maximize, minimize,
prioritize. So if you maximize what the body needs, give it all the good building blocks it needs, put it in an environment where it can thrive, you minimize, you take out what's blocking it. So there's always things that are blocking the healing. So maybe that cut, it's that infection, it's that pathogen that's in there. We have to minimize that. And then you make that, for the time, you prioritize your health. You make it a priority. If you're running around in stress, not resting, your body's not going to heal. It's not going to prioritize healing. So we have to get you to prioritize your health and put yourself in an environment where that healing can take place. So it's not just labeling it and prescribing something. It's actually putting everything in there. So we look at food, we look at stress, we look at toxins, and we really get a comprehensive approach. What about your mindset? I mean, if you were told you had something that is always going to be this way, you're just going to have to deal with this for the rest of your life, your mindset isn't about healing. I mean, everybody knows about the placebo effect, right? Well, there's a nocebo effect, the opposite. So if you think this just is the way it is, I'm always going to have it, then that you make that true.
Jo, what you just said was golden. I often speak to my mom. She's a neurologist and certainly into, talking about all of this. And she often says, the same about hope. When people are diagnosed with something terminal or, really are dealing with something difficult physically, or health-wise, being given hope, and being spoken to in a way where hope is facilitated rather than a prognosis that is like the dead end, actually has a lot to do with how a person, whether they thrive or whether they succumb to, this is just how it is, and I'm just gonna, perish, right? So what you're saying in terms of mindset, and I was waiting for you to get to that. So do you work with people on, just obviously it's physically and what's going on for them physically, but it's all intertwined, isn't it? Like the emotional and the energetic. Wow.
Yeah. And in functional, as a health coach, because I'm not a doctor, because I work outside of that, the analogy I like to use is if you're in a city that you've never been to before and you're hailing a cab and you tell the cabbie, I need to get to, I need to get to the local theater. You have no idea where you're going. You have no idea how to get there. You don't know what the route's going to be like. You're trusting that cab driver is going to get you there in the most efficient way possible and on time and all the things. So that's like going to the doctor. You go in and you say, this is my problem. Give me the solution. Usually they hand you a slip of paper and that's all you got. And you go away and you're like, you hope, right? You're not in control. You've handed that control over to the cab driver, over to the doctor. As a health coach, I like to say, we're going to get on a bus together. You're in the driver's seat because you're the person that knows your health the best. I'm going to be back behind you with the map, navigating and letting you know what your options are. There are all these empty seats on the bus for a reason, because we're not going to be able to do this alone. You need people that help you along this path. And the people that you invite are going to be people you're comfortable with. So maybe that is your doctor. Maybe it's an acupuncturist. Maybe it's a massage therapist. Maybe it's someone that can dig deeper and do some emotional work with you. Maybe it's some diet changes. Maybe it's some supplements. Maybe it's, an exercise program. There's all these things. We know innately what it takes to have good health. I mean, grandma told us, right? Like fresh air, sunshine, all that stuff.
Right.
We've discounted that in the realm of modern medicine because we're looking for the quick fix. The power has been taken away from us. We've given it to someone in a white coat.
Yeah.
The person in the white coat knows best. And our inner wisdom has been sidetracked. And what I like to tell people is I put you in the driver's seat because you're the person living in your body. And once you start listening to it again, you're going to know what you need. And I'm just there to guide you and show you your options and help you understand that dynamic that's going on in your body.
Jo, what do you do? Because this is fabulous, right? To be able to have that, for me, it's so empowering to think that I have, wow, like I'm responsible and I feel empowered by that. I would say that some people might look at that and say, I don't want to be responsible, so how do you work with people who are new to this idea? And see this responsibility as a burden rather than something that is empowering? How do you work with them?
I think they see it as a burden because they don't understand.
Mm.
I mean, they've been taught to think that I'm not smart enough. I don't know enough. But health is pretty simple when you break it down. And like I said, that maximize, minimize, prioritize model. And what we do as health coaches is give you that power. We teach you how to take that power back. And we do it in a way that's not overwhelming, that's not burdensome. And it's really amazing when I can see someone go from that, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to have to be like this for the rest of my life. I thought I was going to have to deal with the daily headaches, the debilitating pain, the fatigue, like having to be really close to a bathroom for the rest of my life, or whatever it is you're dealing with. And then all of a sudden they go, it was that simple? Like, why hasn't anyone told me this?
Wow. So I'm thinking of like 5 people in my life right now, as you're talking, that
send them my way.
Have said those things, right? Like, I have to be close to a bathroom. Or even a client that I, am working with who doesn't, she's a young woman, does not leave her house, in fear of not being close to a bathroom, right? And so, wow, yeah. And
most of the time, modern medicine has no answer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their answers, I think modern medicine is wonderful. We have made some amazing discoveries. These people are so vested. They've studied. They're brilliant people. My girlfriend's child was born without a thyroid. I mean, thank God we know that she has a slip of paper and she can go get replacement pharmaceuticals for something that she was born without, right? My cousin was born with his heart absolutely flipped 180 degrees. Nothing was working. He's had multiple heart transplants or heart surgeries. I mean, that's brilliant. We can replace so much.
Would you say, Jo, that it's not a this or that, but even in the work I do, I always say there's a place for this and there's a place for this and there's a collaborative, we can integrate it. Yeah. And maybe that's the takeaway, is that there's something that we can find in both, but it's not one or the other.
No, and I mean, and that's really what I'm so glad you said that, because what I've really come to learn in this 8-year journey of, becoming a health coach, adding the functional medicine, and how I got there, has been that we need to start communicating wellness in a way together. Like, there's a huge chasm, and for people on one side or the other, there seems to be this inability to join forces and move this forward. And I don't think it's the people in the trenches that are actually seeing patients on a day-to-day basis or seeing clients on a day-to-day basis that have put this chasm in place. It's much bigger, and it just is. But I truly believe when we start communicating one-on-one, that at the end of the day, we all want our patients and clients to feel better. We want them healthy. We just have been trained with totally different toolboxes, and we serve different purposes. And they shouldn't be in opposition to one another. They should be in their proper place. And there's a way for us to work together. I sit in New York. In New York, I need doctors to order labs. I've been on the soapbox with vitamin D lately, that if everyone had adequate vitamin D levels, we wouldn't be where we are. And Britain actually just said that they're giving vitamin D to all their vulnerable people. And I know most insurances in America will pay for a vitamin D test and will pay for a vitamin D prescription, but is that the best choice? Like, that slip of paper, is that the best D you can take? That's a whole nother conversation. But in most states, you can get a vitamin D test on your own. In New York, we need a doctor to do that. So it's imperative in New York State that we have those conversations, and learn to communicate together to get the best outcomes.
And what I just became, first of all, you just taught me something, not the vitamin D part. I know that. And I'm going to go and take my vitamin D right when we're done. 2,500. But the lack of, and I talk about this often as well, is it's not that people are unwilling or they're stupid. And I use that word to really create like a bit of what we would call a scotoma, but right. Like to pierce our listening a little bit. It's not that people are stupid. It's just that when we have, we don't have the knowledge. We just we don't know any better. Right. And so having those conversations is so important. And I want to ask, because this was really fascinating to me. You didn't always do this. This isn't something that you were like, oh, this is what I want to do. What is your story? Like, how did you get to where you are right now? Because you're so passionate. You're obviously exactly where you're meant to be. But how did you get there, and what did you go through?
Yeah. I know you always say there's that moment, that one moment. And there was maybe it was the cement that like really stuck the flag in the ground, that like, this isn't going to move moment. But there were a lot of baby steps that kind of had me digging the hole. Mm-hmm. I had multiple, like, I was not a healthy child for the most part, but I mean, I had a lot of things. I had recurrent throat infections, which turned into recurrent sinus infections, which turned into recurrent bladder infections. My first pregnancy, I was not feeling great. My second pregnancy ended up with 3 months on an IV with extreme morning sickness. Wow. So bad that I needed that IV home therapy. I was told it was my gallbladder, had that removed in my middle of my 20s. I'm like, this is supposed to be an old, fat female 40 thing. He goes, well, you are fertile and female, so that's 2. And I'm like, yeah, but I wasn't given a choice. It was like, this is what you have to do. This is the only option, is removing this organ, which never sat right with me. Mm-hmm. My kids had multiple issues. So, I mean, I was constantly in the back of my mind going, I know there's got to be a better way. I went to school for biochemistry. I ended up staying home raising kids. And things just didn't sit right. Mm-hmm. All this, like, all these things that I've done hasn't gotten me healthier. Now I've lost an organ. Now mm-hmm. my kids are sick. Now, like, my second was like chronically constipated. Like, imagine like sitting there with your 2-year-old, like, while he cries through every bowel movement. Mm. Like, it was just not good. And there came a day when I was sitting at a moms of preschoolers group, and this woman came up to give a talk about how to help your family out with alternatives to just going to the doctor. So how do you support your family's health outside of the doctor's office? And my mind was just like expanded. And that was the thing that just took me from just going down this path to kind of turning down this path. That was like the one, like, okay, let's do this. It happened to be one of my best friend's moms that came in. So she was over for lunch. We had this long conversation, and my path was set. Mm. But that didn't get my family necessarily 100% well. And, but it did set my course. And I did find a health coaching school when I found out health coaching was a thing. And I was like, okay, I know what I'm going to want to be when I grow up. I can't, I'm too old to go back to medical school, but I could health coach. I'm already doing this with all the stuff I've been learning. So I became a health coach. And I started running detoxes because that was all the rage. And my client, I felt great first couple. And then I started not feeling so great. Mm. And I was like, why are my clients feeling great? And I'm just, it wasn't the same. Like by the third or fourth one, I was like, I don't feel so great. I don't think I'm going to do these every time with my clients. I'll take them through it, but I'm not going to do it with them. And then came the year, that moment, right? 2014, I had, it started off in the summer with just a friend close to my husband that passed away. Then it was a guy from high school. And then it got closer. It was my uncle. It was Steve's grandmother, my grandmother, and then my brother. And my brother had been suffering with chronic pain. He had been injured at work. He was a really super hardworking construction guy. And he had gone to the doctor after injuring his shoulder and been given a prescription pain med. After a time, they're like, you've been on it too long, we're taking it away. Well, the pain wasn't gone. He still had to support his family. What do you do? Right? So he was one of the statistics. So it was the Monday before Thanksgiving. His family was staying over with us, and he accidentally overdosed on something that he had gotten to take care of the pain. And it was at that moment that everything kind of shifted for me. I went through a year of just type A driven personality. I was the fixer in my family. I just stepped up to the plate. My grandmother had just passed. My sister-in-law and kids were about to be homeless. So we cleaned up the house, basically me and my friends, because my mother and my family had just lost 2 people close to them, and they weren't the fixer. I was the one that got up and did it. I was the oldest, right? I was the one that did it. My mother was devastated. My brother too. So it was left in my plate. So we did this, and we got him into the house. I did the whole year. And sometime the next year, all of that came crashing down on me. And I ended up covered in hives. And it was at that moment that I realized everything that I had learned up to then still wasn't enough to get to the root of what was going on. And everywhere I searched for an answer, it was, here's a steroid, here's an antihistamine, you're going to deal with this for the rest of your life. No, we don't know exactly what's causing it. That's too hard to figure out. Just keep these 2 prescriptions and you'll be good. And I could not wrap my brain around the fact that a year ago and all through my life, my skin's been clear. And all of a sudden, I'm literally look like a leper. My girlfriend was like, it looks like you have leprosy. I mean, the skin was falling off the face around my mouth, you know. It was literally from my nose to my waistband. And it was searching for answers that got me to functional medicine. And I had kind of been looking at it like, this is really cool. This is really neat. This aligns with what I want. But like, how do I get into this? And it was after that, and seeing a functional medicine doctor, seeing a naturopath, seeing my regular doctor, and having them all go at each other. Like, why are you going over there for answers? I told you to do this. What did, you know, like, oh, why are, you know, if you're going there, you don't need me on your case. And it was just like, I cannot believe that this is where I am.
Yeah.
With everything I know, that I am still stuck here, not able, like having to piece this together by myself, you know? And I know they were probably all well-meaning, but it was just, it was crazy to me that it was so hard. So when I found out that I could add functional medicine and that knowledge base to my health coaching and actually be the person to sit with someone with all the puzzle pieces of their health and help them put that puzzle together and get people, instead of just taking that script and ending up like my brother or just ending up like me, like this is something I could actually do with my life and be an advocate for people and step up and say, hey, if we don't communicate wellness, if the wellness community and the medical community can't have a conversation and not be offended, how are we ever going to serve the people we need to serve? So not only did I like do the work to become a functional medicine health coach, but I am sitting in the space now of let's communicate wellness. Let's get together on the same page and bring your best and our best to the table and present that to people and work together instead of against each other.
Jo, your story just really like pierced my heart. And what is your brother's name?
Mike.
You know, it's so it's always so touching and just all bittersweet for me whenever we have a story like this and I hear a story like this, and you know, there's a loss, such a significant loss. And yet something so incredibly poignant and beautiful has come from it. In you, I mean, what you do for people and the way that you just described that, it's like, I want you on my team. Like, I want you right beside me. You know what I mean? Like the nurse on the unit, you know, just really being able to help everyone communicate and come together so people can really have a holistic approach to taking care of their mental health, their bodies. So this is an incredible story.
Yeah, I mean, I look at where we are today in this country, and the medical system is absolutely overwhelmed. People aren't getting to the root cause of why they're in the situations they're in. We are frantically trying to throw Band-Aid solutions onto what we have going on, and the studies are there.
Yeah.
If your vitamin D is over 34, the chances of having a severe reaction to any virus is lowered. I mean, it's just, why are we not mandating vitamin D tests for every single person? Like, you should know that number.
Jo, let me ask you,
be something you know.
What would you say? Because I work and I'm very passionate about working with under-resourced communities, right? So I'm thinking of families that I work with that can easily hire someone like you and have them, you know, going to bat for them every day, right? And their families. What about communities that just, they don't have the resources that these families have? And, you know, what would you suggest? How would you suggest they get started on this approach to their health? You know, what's available? Do you know?
Well, you know, I'm really working at trying to build out a platform where you can get your health questions answered. So every Thursday at 3, I have a Zoom right now. I know we can't, I know it's not for everyone, but I mean, it's free and it's out there. Thursday at 3, and you can go and get your health questions answered. You know, we can't really do personalized care on that. And health coaches really don't do that medical care. So we're not replacing your doctor, your primary care physician. But if you have a question just about, you know, like, I have this going on, like, what should I be looking at? Sorry, you can get that question answered, and we'll do our best to at least point you in the right direction. You know, could it be that, you know, I have a gluten intolerance? These are the symptoms I have. You know, could it be gluten? Yeah, let's answer that question. You know, like vitamin D, like, I have a question, you know, I have a prescription, it says this, is that what I should be taking? Or, you know, like, you know, I took vitamin D and I'm having this, you know, now I feel like this, is that from the D? Like, we can start to explore some of those questions and try and give you answers. And I don't turn anyone away. I try and do the best I can for the people that call me. And even if it's a 15-minute, I do 15-minute free discovery calls. But I'm one person, it's limited. So that's why we're really adamant about, let's find a way to build a platform where we can come together, you know, and serve these communities. I mean, my dream, like, big, huge dream, is to have a wellness center that is just holistic. Like, let's stop building billion-dollar hospitals with fancy equipment, when what most people need to do is eat whole foods, get good sleep, change their mindset about this stuff. You know, let's start, you know, looking at what we're feeding our families.
Back to the basics.
Right. I mean, it really is crap food, stress, and toxins.
Yeah.
And until the people rise up and say, yeah, why aren't we getting our vitamin D tested? Like, I don't want that test. I want that test.
Because,
right?
you know, and this goes back to just not knowing, you know, when you go to the I'm just thinking of an experience I had recently where, you know, it had to do more with our dog. She was getting fixed. And this isn't about humans, this is about the dog. But, you know, I did all of this research about, like, different approaches and different, you know, And the doctor, the vet was like, how do you know this? And it's only because I'm who I am. I'm just type A and like need to know everything. But for people who, even culturally look at, like, I'm Russian, and we look at physicians like, and teachers as they know listen to them. And so when you culturally are, programmed to just kind of, take it for what it is and, take whatever is being told to you. And then you go home and you do it and you don't know any better. So what you're saying is that the antidote to that would be to really spread awareness, education. It's free. Like, we can give it away for free. Let's create that. I think that's beautiful. And create opportunities for people to really take a look at their health. And would you say that there have to be these like major, monstrous changes, or can people do small things that can create really long-lasting change if they're done consistently? That was a leading question.
It is a good question. I think one of the best things that has happened in the last decade is that are those commercials on TV for pharmaceutical meds that come with a laundry list of symptoms, because it has opened people's eyes to what am I putting in my body and what is happening afterwards. And they think about that with the pill bottles that they have, but they're not necessarily thinking that when they go to the grocery store. But I want people to start thinking about, like, when you buy that boxed processed food that you can put in a pantry for 12 months and still eat it.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go clean out my pantry when we're done. Right.
You know, it's going back to our bodies were designed to eat what grows in the soil and what eats what grows in the soil. And the minute we start manufacturing things to put in boxes, to put on shelves, to be eaten at a later date, that food has to be adulterated to withstand that. Mm-hmm. And do our bodies know what to do with that food? Because that food informs the body on how to react.
Yeah.
So if we're constantly inputting things that make our body go, wait a minute, what is this? I don't recognize it. Like, I don't know what this is. Mm-hmm. Then we're confusing our own bodies. Uh-huh. And it communicates that confusion in symptoms.
What a beautifully stated, that was perfect. It confuses our systems.
And, and it's not just, the things we eat. Mm-hmm. What are we putting on our bodies? What do women do on a daily basis to show up? Because your skin is a giant mouth. We think of the skin as the barrier, and we know we have pores, and we know when we put lotion on, the lotion disappears, right? Where does it go?
Inside.
Your skin is a giant mouth. So anything you put on your body, it's reacting to. Anything you're breathing in your environment, you're reacting to. Mm-hmm. If your child has asthma and your house is full of Glade plugins, stop. Please stop. Mm-hmm. Scented candle. I mean, now's the season, right? Everybody's going to go out and get their scented candles.
Guilty.
Everybody's going to go out and get.
What's wrong with the scented candles? Is it? Do you recommend just to stop, or is it a specific kind of candle to use, or not at all? What's that?
Be very careful. One, a lot of times the wax that you're using are petroleum-based petrochemicals. They don't burn clean. So soy, beeswax, I would prefer beeswax. If you're going to burn a candle, burn a beeswax candle. They smell lovely. Mm-hmm. And it's natural. A lot of the other ones are just chemical byproducts. And when you burn them, they put crud into the air. One of the worst things you can do for your house and for your body is artificial scents.
Wow.
They're just, what is the name? There's a documentary out. I can't remember. It's called Stink or something. I don't know. I can't remember. But it talks about all those things. I mean, when you use fabric softener, those are some of the most offensive things to make the fabric. The reason they smell for so long is because there's plasticizers in the fabric softener that make them stick to your clothing, which binds the scents to it, and then the scent stays. But those are artificial chemicals.
Yeah.
And now they're on your clothing, which is next to your skin, which is just like having them. I mean, would you drink the fabric softener?
No.
If you were not going to drink it, then don't put it on your clothes.
So I'm listening to you, and it's not like I haven't heard these things before. You know what I mean? It's like I have to be honest and admit, I've heard these things, I've read these things. How, in a world that we live in this Western society, like I'm in New York, you're in, right? How do you keep, what is a tip that you have for people to start small? And what you said was, and I'm going to start doing this anytime that I use something, to really think about, where it's being put and how it's going to impact, our skin and the air. Candles are going to be hard to get rid of, but I'm going to start asking myself that question. And just by asking myself, I think will really be good. What other tips do you have for people to start doing things now?
I love the work of the Environmental Working Group.
Okay.
There's a lot you can type in products into their portal and see, and they will rate them. 0 being like no effect and 10 being like the most toxic. So wow. You can start looking at, they're not 100% because like I've got natural products that have natural lemon oil in them. But if you have artificial limonene in something, then that's toxic. Mm-hmm. So it's not 100%, but it is very eye-opening to start putting your shampoo in there. Put your Pantene or your whatever. I don't know. I don't even know what it is because I don't use any of that stuff anymore. Literally, when I was covered in hives, I couldn't use anything. My body was so hyper reactive. They wanted to label me with multiple chemical sensitivities disorder. So even natural products, I wasn't using. I literally was brushing my teeth with baking soda, washing my hair with baking soda and vinegar, rinses, like.
Well, this is a good question for you. First of all, are you in your office right now?
I am. This is my home office.
I love it.
I've moved back to my home since this whole thing happened. So yes, I am. And you
can't help but notice behind you. What are those?
Those are essential oils.
I have the same thing going on. I can tell. I love it, love it, love it.
I've 18 years now. My daughter was an infant when someone handed me, I was at one of those mommy play group dates, and my first son was hyper reactive to any bug bites. And I mean, like, he got a bug bite once on his waistband. And by the time he got it in the backyard, came in to see me, it was probably about, saucer size. And by the time we got 40 minutes to the pediatrician, it was from his belly button to his spine. And he would blow up. So I carried a bottle of liquid topical Benadryl everywhere we went because, and had a bottle in my purse. And I pulled it out at a play date. We were at a park. He came with a bug bite on his arm and I pulled out the Benadryl and my girlfriend about slapped it out of my hand and said, "Here, try this," and handed me an essential oil. And I put it on and he was like, "Mommy, this smells funny." I'm like, "Well, just try it. I've got the Benadryl right here. So just come back when you need it." He came back and I said, I'm like, see, he's going to need the Benadryl. And he came back for water. And I said, "Where's the bug bite?" And he couldn't find it.
Wow.
And I looked at my girlfriend and I said, "What the heck is that you just put on my son's arm? And I want that bottle now." And that was like my, opening to essential oils. Don't go to Bed Bath & Beyond and get your essential oils, please, or Kohl's.
They're synthetic.
What?
They're synthetic.
They're synthetic.
Yeah.
And you get what you pay for in the essential oil market. And I know people don't like multi-level, things, but you do. They are some of the best essential oils come from multi-level marketing companies. They just do. And I'm not going to get on a bandwagon of one or the other. You can do your own research on that. But yeah, they are incredibly safe if you know what you're doing. And I've replaced my candle obsession with essential oils, and I have diffusers in all my rooms. My kids have them in their bedrooms. They're just everywhere. And I have pets.
And tell us, you have kids, you have pets.
I have kids and I have pets.
How have they taken to this approach to health and self-care and self-love? How have they, given that their friends probably aren't doing what you're doing, so how have they taken to that?
Well, after 18 years, a lot of their friends are doing it just because I've homeschooled for 20 plus years, and I've been on this natural kick. When I started health coaching, I was literally bartering health coaching services to my essential oil distributor, and we would barter back and forth. So I didn't hop on the actual having my own account for many, 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 many years. So I get it. I get everybody that's like, but eventually she was just like, how many do you want? Just, this is the cheapest way to do it. Just do it. So I did. But my kids love it. I mean, my son carries them with him, my daughter, all my kids, even the ones that have moved away, have their own accounts, and it's just a way of life now. We reach for them first. We reach for other supplements first. My kids have a stomach ache, and I'm like, here's the oil, do this, do that. Here's some probiotics. This is what we're going to do.
Jo, so really what I'm getting from what you're sharing is a little at a time, being consistent with small, and it's really habitual, right? We are habituated to do certain things, and it's just a matter of getting our minds wrapped around this new way of doing something. And which leads me to asking you, what are you up to right now? How do people get in touch with you? And what do you have going on?
So most of what I do right now is coach people. I hook up one-on-one with people. I have that discovery call, and I help people baby step through this. I mean, it took me years to move my house, and it was always a crisis. Like, finding out that my son, reacted to food dyes, and then having to look at every label in my house and start getting the food dyes out, and realizing after I got all the food dyes out, he was also reacting to preservatives, anything that had a preservative in it. So then we started taking all the preservatives out. But I mean, at that time, he's 23 now. At that time, you couldn't get dye-free medicine. So, I mean, it really was a baby step my way through figuring this all out on my own. And I would love to shorten that journey for people. So, when I have clients call me up and say they're struggling with A, B, C, D, I go, okay, what have you tried? What's worked? What hasn't worked? Let's get down. Okay, so this is how we need to do this, and then really not everyone's going to be able to cook every meal from home and do all this stuff. So what are those products? Is every boxed food no. And there's a rule, there's a balance to everybody's life, and you've got to find those balances. Are people going to have 250 oils sitting behind them? No, but you can have, 5 or 8 and know how to use them. But it goes deeper than just going, instead of Tylenol, I'm going to use this. It's a whole way of supporting your health in a holistic manner. So yeah. TrueWellnessWesternNewYork.com is my email. Thursday at 3 is the Facebook group.
And how do people get in touch with you for the Zoom call that you
That's Thursday at 3.
And do they just email you, or they get in touch through your website?
You can actually go to, we've just started. So we've been live for, I think, 2 weeks. So all the little subtle nuances are going on, but we do have that Facebook page, Thursday at 3. So if you go there, it'll be there, and we're going to start sharing it from different platforms, but go on to the Facebook page. The Zoom link is there, and we're live on Facebook right now, Thursdays at 3.
Incredible.
Once they find us there, they'll get linked into all the other ways to get in touch with us. But my email is jo@jocoburn.com too. So you can just shoot me a quick email and I'll make sure you get hooked up.
Thank you. And is there any last words that you'd like for people to just walk away with, about their health? Is there anything that you, I always like to ask if there's anything that you say to yourself or bring yourself, make yourself present to every day that just really brings you back to, your health and self-care.
I think I really want people to know that they are in control, that the tiny choices they make on a daily basis have exponential effects, and you think about it and you go, well, what's my getting rid of my candles going to do? Or what's, all these little changes, what is that going to do? Well, it's not just the one thing. It's not 1 + 1 = 2, right? It's that 1 + 1 = 100. And you do it over and over and over and make those small changes, and you're going to find things. I mean, sometimes you find that one thing that unlocks a whole row and you're like, and sometimes people are stuck. They just don't know where to take that first step. Like, what do I do first? There's so much. And I just do that next thing. I was reading, I don't know if it was a webinar or something I was reading today. And, I don't know what people's faith is, but, if you pray for guidance and you get do this, don't question it, do it. That's usually, that's the first thing you need to do. And if it's call me.
I love it. Well, I think everyone should call Jo. I've already referred you to a couple of people. I think this is great. And what you just said is really in line with what I champion, which is trusting your journey, trusting yourself. And, we are our inner, we have inner guidance inside of us, and really getting back to that basic.
Nobody knows you like you know you.
No.
And the one thing I do when I talk to clients, I'm like, if you're not willing to own your responsibility in this, then there's no point. I'm not a doctor. Like, don't expect to get off the phone call with me with a list of do ABC. Because the do ABC is going to be, okay, go journal and figure out what your next step is. And then let me know how I can support you in that next step. Because I'm a coach. And if you know anything about sports, the coach doesn't play the game. They're not on the field. Right?
You come with really great questions and a lot of expertise in guiding people as an expert companion alongside on the journey. And I love that, because that is, it's a humble approach, but it is the leadership approach to supporting people. Because if it's anything that I've noticed, anyone that ever tells people what to do, that person ends up just, somewhere along the way, it trickles away. But if we empower people, which is what you're sharing, to really take control of their own lives, it's like my mom used to say, we give people wings, right? And then they we teach them how to fly and we give them the wings, but they decide where they go and how they use them.
Yep. So, I like to say that I'm kind of like training wheels. Like, we're going to get on the bike and we're going to bike down the path. And I'm kind of your training wheels, and I'm there, and I'll make sure you don't fall. But eventually, like, I don't want to be your coach forever. I'm just your coach for a time.
Yeah.
Now, if you've hit a bump in the road and fall off the bike and scrape your knees and need some help back on, give me a call. I'm more than happy to put you upright and get you going again. But my goal is for you to not need me. My goal is to support you for a time, so you understand what's going on in your body, to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are, and learn how to stay on the path and put those bumpers up for yourself.
It was such a pleasure today to talk to you, Jo, and to champion you. I think what you're doing is incredible. And everyone listening out there live, by the way, you have a friend, Sarah Stone, who has been incredible throughout this whole interview. And everyone else that's watching, thank you. Please get in touch with Jo. She's incredible. And Jo, we will speak again soon. This will definitely not be the last conversation.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.